everyone. It's Keasha Lee. I'm the host of this fantastic show called Konversations with Keasha. I'm also a personal branding coach, creator of the Embody Your Brand program. And I'm here today to share another super cool topic with my special guest, Marie Roviello, who is an interior and architectural designer, and also a feng shui expert who will be sharing today how to turn your home into an experiential 3D vision board. Now, we're still at the beginning of the year. There's plenty of time to figure out and get clear in terms of how you want the year to go. And most people have understood or know the concept of creating vision boards, but today we're going to talk about how to turn your space into a 3D vision board. So cool. So I'm going to allow more of you folks to come on in and bring Marie on in just a moment. So hello. And feel free, just like every conversation that we have, the goal is to provide some insights and to support you all with an expanded view of the possibilities that are available in the world. And so we love it when you have questions and provide questions and input along the way. So let me see, excuse me, let's get Marie in here. Accept my invitation, and then we can get you in here so we can start this conversation. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good.
See, that was simple, right? All you had to do?
It was. My kitten destroyed my microphone.
I
just had a new kitten, so I'm like, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yes.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Oh, you're so welcome. I thank you for coming on and sharing some of your wisdom and who you are with my audience. And hopefully some people from your audience can join the conversation. So, I really feel I like having conversations with depth. And, I started this under the premise that, hey, let's do some 30-minute live conversations for both of us, the participants, to learn more about each other and to gain some new insights. And more importantly, for those who are tuning in, whether live or during the replay, to get some new ideas and perspectives, because I feel when you can walk away and say, I never thought of it like that before, then that has increased your worldview, like expanded it, and the possibilities of what's out there for you and your place in the world. So I would love for you to introduce who you are in your own words, what's important to you, and who you help and why that matters.
Wow. So for me, like, personal growth is always like front and center.
Yes.
And basically, like, I love helping people find ways and channels to create more happiness and abundance and wellness in their lives. And I've been in like thousands of homes over the last 30 years, practicing architecture and interior design.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found ways to, listen intuitively, watch, people's body language, sense the energy of a space and the person, and understand maybe their blind spots and the gaps in terms of where they are and where they want to be.
Yeah.
Much greater than, say, interior design, but this is working within their homes, their environment.
Yeah, your environment makes a total difference in terms of inspiration and quality of life overall, really, in terms of how let's just say reflective it is of what's important to you and who you are, and ensuring that there are things that surround you that that are conducive to your joy and peace of mind. So tell us more about your unique approach to design, architectural.
Creating a 3D vision
Yeah.
board. So basically, like, we all have done that, right? We create like these 3D vision boards, and sometimes they happen and sometimes they don't. But I think what happens is, you know, we kind of get caught up, right, with life. Like, a lot of us are working on our mindset, and you know, there's all of these, you know, these obstacles that come in our way. It's just like everyday life, the reality of like where we live, our feelings, our emotions, you know, all of these different aspects. And so I think when we're, you know, I know that when we live in a space that helps to remove a lot of the resistance between where we are now and where we would like to see ourselves, or what we would like to become. And I'm not saying like change a person. It's like our highest level, our highest calling, our soul's purpose, you know, our higher selves. I'm talking about, you know, I'm talking from that perspective. You know, I like to be able to remove the resistance between that and, you know, where they are to where they want to become. And there's a number of different ways to do that. What I've discovered. So I call it the quantum home.
The quantum.
Yeah, the quantum home. Because there's so many different possibilities. Like, there can be one person, you know, that's one person is, you know, a creator, an intelligent creator, you know, conscious creator of their space. There's all different possibilities that they can create within their lives.
Yeah.
And what they focus on, and the, you know, many studies have shown that our environment, not just the 5 people that we hang around, but, you know, that's part of it, but also our physical environment affects us on all levels, mentally, emotionally, physically, because it affects our health as well. And that can lead to different types of possibilities. So if you're looking at your home, for example, you know, if you have this vision board up and you're like, oh, you know, I want this life, right? But yet you're living in a place that maybe is full of clutter or disorganized, or you're unhappy. And every time you walk in, you know, your inner language, you know, around your home environment is not positive, then that's going to just create, it's going to cause you to exert more willpower to try and get to the mindset that's going to help you reach those goals. Does that make sense?
It does. Now let's break it down a bit so we can like make it simplified and actionable. What would you say? Can you give some examples of like a mindset, like a desire, let's just say? Because I think we all have the concept of a vision board, you know, and you have the beautiful photos or words or phrases that really represent where you want to be and where you're going. And so let's break it down in terms, since you work with quantum home. So let's just say let's say you want a romantic partner or want to improve your current relationship romantic wise. What could that look like in your bedroom?
Okay, so this is different than feng shui. I use ancient wisdom as well. There's many different types of ancient wisdom, not just feng shui. But I think ultimately you have to feel good with who you are, you know, before you can really feel good within a relationship setting. So it isn't just like very prescribed, like, oh, we're going to put, you know, we're going to make sure that there's images of 2 people, a couple in your room, for example. You know, this is going to be more about, this is more about like you getting in touch with your own sense of self-love. And I think that that has so much more to do outside of the bedroom
Mm-hmm.
that eventually does affect the bedroom.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so for example, if you're, if you're working in a small office and you're not loving your space and you're not feeling good about, where you're working, you're not necessarily going to feel good about how you show up in the world or how you feel about yourself. So say, just for an example, you're in a tiny space, maybe you have a wall, maybe you don't have any windows, that kind of a thing. And I'm going to get to your bedroom thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways through the senses. Yes, there's ways to set up the actual furnishings, right, to help energy flow.
Yeah.
But there's also ways to have more of a sensory experience. So there's certain scents, for example, that can help the brain. It's neuroscience. So a lot of what I work with is scientific
Okay.
and energetic. So the neuroscientific studies have shown, for example, that your by smelling something like, say, an ocean or a forest, it actually tricks the brain into feeling more expansive.
Mm.
So doing these little things like, that's just one of many examples that I can give you,
Mm-hmm.
can help you feel more uplifted and more calm
Mm-hmm.
within your space, because it's a nervous system, it's a nervous system trigger as well. Like if you're not happy and you're experiencing this small space and you don't feel good about yourself, your nervous system is contracting, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
cortisol levels are going up. It's affecting your hormones. And this is not stuff I'm making up. It's affecting your hormones. It will affect your overall health. You might not feel good about the way you look. And that's going to affect how you behave within your relationship as well. So it's like, it hits on everything from mindset to, your physical, emotional, and yeah,
Yeah. I like,
well-being. That's what I was trying to remember.
what is that?
Your physical, emotional well-being as well. And so
Emotional.
it's a domino effect of any, we have this tendency to think that like every room and everything that we do is sort of compartmentalized, and
Mm-hmm.
it isn't. It's all, one home, and I'll let you talk. Our homes are basically, it's a reality that we've created subconsciously. It's like a hologram. And so physically, energetically, there's all of these different possibilities that we can create when we put things together in our space. And
Yes.
based on like our old belief systems, maybe limiting belief systems, maybe the way we grew up, the way we feel about ourselves, how we are in our lives right now. Maybe we're stressed out. We're just buying stuff because we're bored, whatever that is. All of that intention, all of those thoughts, all of that energy is being brought into your home when you're going out and buying stuff and bringing it in. And it's reverberating back to you that energy, which collectively is creating your environment. And then I'll be quiet.
Oh,
Okay.
that does make a lot of sense. And I want to ask, what would people, what would be the first thing? Like, I liked what you said about the sensory. I liked several things. You said a lot. So let me just back up.
I know it's a
Yeah.
lot to break down.
The sensory component, like of sense, certain sense. I would even think sound as well.
Yes.
Of bringing that in to conjure. And you would start with the things that feel most appealing and feel good to you, right? But you touched on something about that. Feel the smell of pine, for example, really brings in, probably on a subconscious level, that more expansiveness, because pine is wood in a forest, which means there's no confines of a particular space. It's more open. And I would say the same would be with sounds of the ocean or having a water feature in some way where, again, that brings in that nature component. And in turn, beach, vastness of ocean or sea, those feelings of helping you feel more, less constricted. And also, I love, it's true, many people feel this room, the kitchen, the living room, they have their own personalities, and, you know, of course, they function differently.
Yes.
However, there is a cohesion overall regarding energy, feel. And so I'm curious to know what your suggestion, what is like your step 1 and 2 for helping people get clear on what it is that they want? Like, what's your process of working with folks?
I think that the first thing is clearing the energy in your space. Like really, you know, the physical items as well, like really understanding what it is, kind of go in there like an archaeologist, you know, what it is that you created for yourself, and whether or not this is what your future vision is of, and also understanding the energy of the objects that you've brought in.
Okay.
Does that, are you following?
Yeah, but meaning what? Like understanding the energy
Like,
of objects.
So it's a combination of like decluttering. So decluttering is really important, but a lot of people think it's one and done, like declutter, sage, open some windows, and I'm done. But I work on getting to the root cause of why your space is the way that it is. So what the stress triggers are, you know, what causes you to buy those things. Because most of the time we have our priorities, and then we have also triggers. And everybody's life is like a little bit out of balance, right? We tend to buy a lot of stuff in we have like one area of our lives is overflowing with stuff, and then another area of our lives is just not enough. So it's sort of like, why do we keep kind of going to that place? What is the trigger there? And what's happening when you experience those triggers? For example, like, are you getting into an argument with your husband? Are you not feeling good about yourself? Like all that kind of stuff. So I go deep into those things to understand and get to the root cause of the behavior so that we can start to shift it. So that's the first thing. So that's like it's a deep dive in decluttering.
Got it.
Yeah.
Declutter, deep dive into decluttering. Yes. And it's so freeing and light when you do start to release things that you're like, why in the heck? I was looking through some old photos, for example, like last month, and really I was prepping and getting rid of things because I do that from time to time. Like, I just feel like I like to rearrange my furniture and just shift how it feels. But I was looking.
It feels good when we do that.
Huh?
It feels good when we do that.
Good. It's like fresh energy. It feels like you're in a different space when all you did was tweak a few things. But anyway, I was looking at photos through my photo boxes, and I had pictures of people I don't even know anymore, like from high school, like their senior pictures. And not that there's anything wrong, but I'm like, why am I holding on to this? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me anymore. And, you know, so I got rid of them because I literally don't talk to those folks anymore. And I'm like, this is just taking up space in my memory box. Yes. So that's just one example. But of course, it could be clothes, it could be furniture pieces, knickknacks. And of course, there are things that have a sentimental value to us, or reflect a place and time that felt good, or something that was really meaningful to us. So you help people identify what's, you know, the thing that needs to go, and do you help them find new places for the things that are meaningful? Because a lot of times also you may find that you have things tucked away and you're like, why am I not displaying this?
Exactly. Yeah. So I go into all the different emotions, the fear, the guilt, the sentimental stuff, the shame, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then I think a lot of times what happens is that people we don't know how to live like with voids in our society. So wherever there's space, we just feel like, oh, we need to fill it, because, you know, we're bombarded with, like, I think it's like 3,000 to 5,000 ads a day. So it just kind of makes us feel like we're not enough. So we're just kind of like, you know, screw it, I'll just buy some stuff on Amazon, whatever. And guess what? I have a present, you know, and Amazon arrives. And so we get kind of these dopamine hits.
Right.
So there's that. And then, you know, also like to your point, when you find stuff in your space that you love and you're like, why am I not displaying that? You know, what happens is when we have just too much stuff around, it's like having too many tabs open on our computers. We can't really see what's important, and our brains literally get overstimulated. And there becomes like visual noise within our space. So it becomes overwhelming, and then we kind of shut down and like we want to get out of the house or go do something else. So there's a lot to unpack there, you know, and that's just the first step. But it's also understanding like the energy of the objects that you're actually bringing in. Like, what kind of energy are you bringing into your space, which is the sort of that bridge, you know, of is it coming from a place of not enoughness or boredom, or what is that? And like, then we start to kind of unpack that stuff too.
So let's get back to the topic of like creating the vision board, because within our spaces, in our homes, because I think it's a really cool concept. And, you know, what kinds of things would you give as a suggestion for people to start in terms of looking around? You know, we've spoken about the energy and decluttering and looking at the energy of things and where it's the feelings, emotions of where it's coming from. But how can we start to implement, you know, creating these spaces that are like, yeah, this is who I'm becoming. You know, this feels more abundant and luxurious, or this feels more simplified because I'm trying to simplify my life, or, you know, whatever. Do you have any like tips?
Yeah, let me think about that. So like the first step is like aligning, right? It's like clearing out and aligning. And then the steps would be, this is not like, oh, we're gonna, you know, you want to live in Italy or whatever, and we're gonna put up photos of Italy everywhere and words and stuff like that. No, this is like, how do you want to feel in your space?
Yeah.
What are the types of materials that feel luxurious? Some people are afraid of the sort of word luxury, you know, and they don't allow themselves to experience the feeling of luxury, say in beautiful bedding. You know, what are the scents that you want to smell? Do you want to live at the beach? Do you want to live in the mountains? You know, what do you want to smell? And
Ari,
there's so much, like, I don't want to overwhelm. I'm kind of like,
let's toss it over. We've got a few people that have been watching, and I want to know, do you all have any questions or comments, for those of you who've been listening to us, to the conversation thus far, about some of the ways, if you have any questions about like really creating this feeling? So we touched on, it's about conjuring the feelings, it's a feel, and we can start to incorporate certain textiles and other sensory things that can help to really bring that to life, because that's what we're doing. That's what we always do. It's from our, you know, our emotions, the thoughts that we have that we're thinking the most, that create, you know, the emotions about the things, which then lead to the actions or inactions. So depending on what you're thinking, like, oh, nobody wants me, or I'm so behind in life, or I procrastinate, you know, of course that's going to create inaction because you're not feeling inspired. So it's like, if you all have any questions about, you know, the things that you can do to bring more inspiration into your space, or the things that can help you feel more inspired, we'd love to.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from them. But it's also micro shifts. This isn't like a big, broad thing of like, oh, you know, you're going to bring in a big painting of the Caribbean.
Oh, it never is.
This is like, this is mindset work done in like physical sort of form. So for example, like if you want to be more successful, right? One of the things that you're going to need to look at is, what is your morning routine? What is your sleep routine? How do you wake up how do you get to sleep? Are you checking your phone like constantly before you fall to sleep? Are you getting up in the morning? Are you looking at your phone? Now, I'm not saying turn your phone off and don't do that, right? But like, how are you gonna, so, okay, let me back up a minute. So when we create a space, we're creating spaces based on what we know and our comfort zone. And usually our comfort zone is not going to get us to where we want to be, because it's just keeping us in this never ending loop of what's familiar, right? So when you start looking at like, what is actually my morning routine? Because we set it up like, oh, we want the coffee pot over here and we want this over there because it's easy, it's comfortable, right? But when I get in there and I start shifting things around so that it actually starts to force you, gently force you in a direction that's going to be more towards your goals, right? Then that kind of creates new patterns physically and in the brain, right? Which then causes whatever you wish to happen. Like maybe it's more wellness, healthy choices, better sleep, so that in the morning you wake up and you feel replenished. And you know what, you follow?
Yeah, yeah. So Ari says I removed some curtains to create an integrated space with my trees.
Oh, beautiful.
So that,
I love that. It's really ultimately it's like refining your space for these reasons, and then also feeling love within your space.
So
Declutter.
how do you escape old patterns? I feel like I declutter all the time and try to up level and end up with the same soulless result.
Yeah, I think that's really great, because I think that just like having a mindset coach, we can't see what we can't see our blind spots. So I think you need to have another perspective of someone who can see where some of your blind spots are. And the decluttering is one thing, but like I've said earlier, like getting to the root cause of those patterns, it's what's really important to help shift them. Otherwise, the decluttering thing is just like, oh, I just keep cleaning off, you know, this desk, or, you know, I have this pattern of constantly buying these things. And it's understanding why you're doing that.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Makes me think about those shows, like the when they do, and I do always think, oh, I wonder what the follow-up looks like. Like do a check-in 6 months later with the home design cases, or even the ones where people have extreme cases, like in the hoarders show. Admittedly, I couldn't watch it because it was just too, I got anxiety just looking at all that, but just, you know, it does take an outside perspective for all of us if we really truly want to have sustainable results. Then it is of benefit to, we only know what we know.
Right.
We can only make as much progress as the current level of skills, patterns, you know, knowledge that we have. So like you said, Marie, bringing in somebody who can help with getting to the root of what that is.
Decluttering. That's just step one. You know, there's color, you know, there's crystals I work with. There's, you know, energetics. There's, you know, the neuroscience. Like our brains are ancient. They're primal. And even though we live in a modern world, you know, in these modern homes, like things that stimulate that ancient part of our brain is not changeable. And so, you know, there's certain materials that are going to calm, for example, our nervous system. And there's certain materials that actually cause a flight or fight sort of response within our nervous system on a low level that affects our stress, our cortisol levels, and so many other aspects of our health. And they're just in materials and patterns and different finishes alone. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that I help educate people, because they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So you want to start to remove these triggers, if you will, you know, so that we start to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is more calming, and that's going to allow you to just be more, right? And receive, get into that receiving mode, and tap into the universe, and allow more, allow you to manifest and ask for what it is that you desire in your life. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It's very layered, and I feel like ultimately, as we mentioned at the beginning, it is about deciding and understanding who you need to be, who you want to be. That it really starts there with clarity and in us, and understanding how then to create these spaces or environments that continue to reinforce it for the benefit of our progress. So I love a lot of what you said. The brain, it is not a simplistic thing, of course, and it takes consistency and habits. That's why you help with the repatterning. It's behavior, and they're so deeply ingrained. But wow, I definitely, this has brought a new perspective for me even about.
Yeah, it's different. I'm still, I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm just still getting used to like talking about it.
Yeah.
More publicly. But yeah, there's so much, like even colors it's not like, oh, like with branding, like purple means royalty, and it's much deeper than that, because they each carry their own frequency and they can heal us. So depending upon your what needs to be healed, I can look at it in different ways, just from like the color, the science of it, or even like chakras, for example. So there's so much to unpack. It's like hard for me. There is no like, HGTV, like here's, this is kind of a quick fix kind of thing.
But there's always a starting point, and that's what I was just
starting point. Yeah, and there's things that I share it's like, they're in steps.
Yeah.
But just like for HGTV, just to give you guys an idea, I've been in the business for over 30 years in architecture and design. I've worked on like major Fortune 500 companies and celebrity homes and stuff like that. HGTV, I love HGTV, but those homes are basically set design. So usually when they're done, a real contractor has to come in and fix it. It's just done for TV. It's not real. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just keeping it real. Like that's how it is. It's a business. It's TV.
Yeah, it is TV, and it's entertainment, and it does bring happiness to see, oh, look at the pretty, look at where it was, look at where it is. So is there anything that you'd want to leave us with, Marie?
Oh gosh.
And how people can
I'm using so much gray.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's using gray. First of all, it's over. And second of all, it's depressing. Like it actually causes people to become depressed. So I'm like, stop using all gray everywhere, everybody. What can I leave you with? Your environment actually helps shape who you are. So you work from the inside out with mindset and all that, but it's also really important to work from the outside in. And our environment is a third of the law of attraction.
Okay.
So it's really important to get to a place where you love your space, because that's going to allow you to open up more to abundance.
Yeah. I love that.
Self-love and self-love.
And self-love. Absolutely. We've just given the painter the go-ahead to paint the woodwork pink. Brightening it up, huh? Lighting it up.
Have fun. That's one of the easiest things to do is paint. Like, just adding color with paint is like, it's not easy, like, to pick the right color, even from designers who've been doing this for decades, but it's the least expensive way to change a place is with color.
For sure. For sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, anyone have any other questions before we wrap it up? I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you have too many stones, gemstones?
Hell to the no, girl. I love crystals. Crystals actually act like tuning forks in your space. So they're not just pretty rocks or things that like are woo. Like, the science of it is that I have my science brain and I have my woo brain, and I'm trying to, like, you know, kind of get the two in sync, because I kind of go, you know, left, right, but the science behind it is that they act like tuning forks for us, which helps stabilize our environment and create more harmony, because we're the ones that are unstable, because our emotions are up and down and all over the place and that. But the actual stones they're also part of the mineral kingdom. We have crystals within our bodies because they're minerals. So that you can think of them like plants, but like a subtler version. So they are alive. They do have a consciousness. I'm not saying they have a soul, but they do have a consciousness, and you can learn how to work with them and activate them so that frequency, because everything has its own frequency. Each crystal has its own frequency. So each item, each crystal, will start to then emanate that energy into your space. Best crystal for an office space. Do you mind if I answer that?
Go ahead. That's for you. I
would say pyrite it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So pyrite is great for absorbing EMFs. Black tourmaline is really good for absorbing any kind of negativity. And what's the other one? You have to be careful, because you don't want to put crystals in there that are going to amplify EMFs. And then I think you've got, I have to think about it. I think there's citrine is really good. I have to look at my notes. I can't think of the top of my head. But there's crystals that are good for like calling in abundance too.
And then black tourmaline, absorbing negativity, and pyrite. I think that's great for like neutralizing EMFs.
Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Because you always want to ground a space and clear a space before you start moving in, you know, the positive.
Yeah.
Most people want to ignore that part, and they just want, like, let's just bring in the positive. Let's just bring in new stuff. Let's just, you know, and I'm like, no, we got to ground. We got to clear and ground anything, whatever you do. You got to clear and ground it first, and then start bringing in the stuff, the love, the good vibes, and all that, so that it sticks.
Ooh. Thank you so much, Marie.
You're so welcome.
Yes.
Thank you
and
for
thank you all for
having me.
You're welcome. So, folks, catch the replay. If you haven't, I'll be sharing some snippets of some of the highlights that we talked about during this conversation. And stay tuned for the next one, which is coming up next week. And in the meantime, follow Marie. What is your handle?
On Instagram at interiordesign_LA.
Okay.
And I'm very active on Facebook.
Okay. Marie Roviello.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you all. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.